Hello, everyone, and welcome back to English in Fluency. I am your host, Alex, and I am so happy to have you here with me today. Take a deep breath. Just breathe in and breathe out. I want you to relax your shoulders and unclench your jaw. Today, we are not going to rush. We are not going to force anything. Today, we are going to talk about something very important. Something that might change the way you see your English journey forever. We are going to talk about building strong English habits without stress and learning at your own pace. So often, we feel like we are behind. We look at other people speaking fluently, and we think, why am I not there yet? Why is it taking me so long? This feeling creates pressure, and pressure creates stress. And do you know what the biggest enemy of language learning is? It is stress. When your brain is stressed, it shuts down. It stops absorbing new information. So, in this episode, we are going to learn how to let go of that stress. We are going to discover how to build habits that fit into your life naturally, like water flowing down a river. Before we dive deep into our stories and lessons today, if you enjoy this kind of relaxed, natural English practice, please make sure to subscribe to the channel and hit that like button. It helps us grow and reach more learners like you who want to improve without the anxiety. Now, let's begin. I want you to imagine a garden. Think about a small seed planted in the soil. If you want that seed to grow into a big, strong tree, what do? Do you stand over it and scream at it? Do you pull on the tiny stem to try and stretch it out faster? Of course not. If you pull it, you will break it. Instead, you water it a little bit every day. You make sure it has sunlight. You are patient. You trust the process. Learning English is exactly like growing that tree. You cannot force fluency. You cannot pull on your brain to make it grow faster. You simply need to water it with English every single day, a little bit at a time, and trust that the growth is happening, even when you cannot see it. Let me tell you a story about two different students. I want to introduce you to a man named Daniel. Daniel was a very hard-working man. He worked in a busy office in the city, and he decided that he needed to learn English to get a promotion. Daniel was very serious about this goal. He told himself that he would study for 2 hours every single night after work. He bought thick grammar books and expensive vocabulary flashcards. On the first day, Daniel came home tired, but he forced himself to sit at his desk. He studied grammar rules for 2 hours. He felt proud. On the second day, he had a headache, but he pushed himself to do another 2 hours. By the third day, Daniel was exhausted. His work had been stressful, and the idea of sitting at a desk for 2 more hours felt like a punishment. But he did it anyway, because he thought that suffering was necessary for success. He thought that if it wasn't hard, he wasn't learning. Fast forward to 2 weeks later. Daniel looked at his English books with fear. He started to hate them. He associated English with pain, tiredness, and boredom. On Monday of the third week, he skipped his study session. He felt guilty, so he told himself he would study 4 hours on Tuesday to make up for it. But 4 hours was impossible. The mountain became too high to climb. Eventually, Daniel stopped studying completely. He felt like a failure. He told his friends, "I'm just not good at languages." But the truth is, Daniel wasn't bad at languages. He was just bad at pacing himself. He was trying to sprint a marathon, and he ran out of energy before he even reached the first mile. Now, let me tell you about another student. Her name was Elena. Elena also wanted to learn English, but she had a very busy life too. She had 2 children and a job at a bakery. She knew she did not have 2 hours a day to sit at a desk. In fact, she didn't even like sitting at a desk. So, Elena decided to do something different. She decided to make English a part of her life, not a separate job. Elena loved cooking, so she started watching cooking videos in English on YouTube while she prepared dinner for her family. She didn't try to memorize every word. She just watched and listened. When she drove her kids to school, she played simple English songs in the car. Elena also made a small rule for herself. She kept a small notebook in her pocket. Her goal was to write down just one new sentence every day. Just one. It could be a simple sentence like, "The sky is beautiful today," or "I need to buy milk." It took her less than 1 minute. Some days she felt energetic and wrote 3 sentences. Some days she was tired and only wrote one. But she never missed a day because the task was so small and so easy that she couldn't say no. 6 months later, Daniel had quit completely. But Elena? Elena was speaking. She wasn't perfect, but she could understand instructions, she could sing along to songs, and she could have basic conversations. She had built a strong English habit without any stress because she integrated it into her life instead of forcing her life to change for English. We need to be more like Elena and less like Daniel. The secret to building strong habits is consistency, not intensity. Intensity is doing a lot of work for a short time. Consistency is doing a small amount of work for a long time. Consistency always wins. Think about water dripping on a rock. One drop of water does nothing. But if that water drips on the same spot on the rock for years, it will eventually cut a hole right through the stone. Your daily English practice is that drop of water. It doesn't need to be a flood. It just needs to be constant. So, how do we start this? How do we build these habits without stress? The first step is to forgive yourself. You need to forgive yourself for not being perfect. You need to forgive yourself for the days you missed in the past. Today is a new start. I want you to think about your daily routine. Don't think about adding new hours to your day. You cannot create more time. We all have the same 24 hours. Instead, look for what I call dead time, or hidden moments. These are the moments when your hands are busy, but your brain is free. Think about when you are washing the dishes. Your hands are scrubbing the plates. But what is your mind doing? Usually, it is just wandering, or maybe worrying about tomorrow. This is a perfect moment for English. You can put on a podcast, just like this one, and listen while you wash. Think about when you are commuting to work or school. Whether you are on a bus, a train, or walking, that is found time. If you commute for 20 minutes each way, that is 40 minutes of English listening every day without taking any extra time out of your schedule. Let's try a little practice right now. I want you to think about your morning tomorrow. Visualize yourself waking up. You brush your teeth. You get dressed. You maybe drink coffee or tea. Where in that routine can you put 5 minutes of English? Maybe while you are drinking your coffee, instead of scrolling through social media news feeds in your native language, you can read one short article in English. Or maybe while you are brushing your teeth, you can listen to a short English news update. Choose one small thing. Just one. Don't try to change your whole life overnight. If you try to change everything at once, your brain will rebel. It will fight back. Start with one tiny change. Another reason why we feel stress is because we are obsessed with the result. We are always looking at the top of the mountain. We look up and see how far we have to go, and it looks scary. We think, I will be happy when I am fluent. But fluency is not a destination. It is a journey. It is a spectrum. If you only focus on the end result, you will be miserable during the process. And the process is years long, so you must learn to fall in love with the process itself. You must find joy in the daily act of learning. Let's go back to Elena for a moment. Elena didn't watch cooking videos because she wanted to pass an exam. She watched them because she liked cooking. She was interested in the content. This is crucial. If you are reading boring textbooks about topics you don't care about, of course you will be stressed. You will be bored. Your brain will reject the information. You need to make English the vehicle for your interests. If you love football, listen to football commentary in English. If you love fashion, read fashion blogs in English. When you enjoy the content, you forget that you are studying. The stress disappears because you are just doing what you like, but you happen to be doing it in English. I want to talk about the silent period. This is a concept in language acquisition that says it is okay to just listen. Babies do not speak the moment they are born. For the first year or two of their lives, they just listen. They absorb the sounds, the rhythm, and the intonation of their parents. They are not stressed about grammar. They are not worried about making mistakes because they aren't speaking yet. As adult learners, we often force ourselves to speak before we are ready. And then we feel bad when we make mistakes. It is okay to have a silent period. It is okay to just listen to this podcast and understand. You don't have to produce perfect sentences right now. Your brain is a sponge. Let it soak up the water. When the sponge is full, the water will come out naturally. But you cannot squeeze a dry sponge. Let's address the fear of making mistakes. This is a huge source of stress. We feel that every mistake is a sign of failure. We think that if we use the wrong verb tense, people will laugh at us or think we are stupid. But let's reframe that. A mistake is not a failure. A mistake is data. It is information. When you make a mistake and you realize it, or someone corrects you, your brain has just learned something new. You have found a gap in your knowledge that you can now fill. If you never made mistakes, you would never learn. Imagine a musician learning to play the piano. Do they sit down and play a concerto perfectly the first time? No. They hit wrong notes constantly. They play out of rhythm. Does the musician stop and cry every time they hit a wrong key? Do they say, I am a terrible human being because I missed a note? No. They simply pause, go back, and play it again. They treat the mistake as part of the practice. You are the musician, and English is your instrument. Hit the wrong notes. It is okay. The more wrong notes you hit, the closer you get to the right ones. I want to give you a specific technique for stress-free learning called shadowing, but we will do a very gentle version of it. Usually, shadowing means repeating after the speaker exactly as they speak. It can be intense. For our stress-free version, I want you to try mumbling. Yes, mumbling. When you are listening to me right now, I want you to quietly move your mouth along with my words. You don't have to make a loud sound. You don't even have to pronounce every word clearly. Just let your mouth muscles get used to the shape of English. Try it now with this sentence. I am learning at my own pace. Say it quietly to yourself. I am learning at my own pace. Feel how your tongue moves. Feel the rhythm. Do you feel stressed? Probably not, because you are just mumbling. You are just playing with the sounds. This physical connection to the language is very powerful. It connects your ears to your mouth without the pressure of having a conversation with another person. Another habit that helps reduce stress is keeping a success journal. This is different from a diary. In a success journal, you only write down things you did well. We are naturally programmed to remember our failures. If you speak English for 5 minutes and make one mistake, you will think about that mistake all day. You will forget the 4 minutes and 50 seconds of perfect English you spoke. We need to retrain our brains to focus on the wins. So, get a small notebook. Every evening, write down 3 things you did in English that day. It could be 1. I listened to a podcast for 10 minutes. 2. I understood a joke in a movie. 3. I learned the word persistence. When you look back at this journal after a month, you will see a list of hundreds of successes. This builds confidence. It shows you that you are moving forward. Let's talk about the feeling of being stuck, or the plateau. This happens to everyone, especially at the B1 level. When you are a beginner, you learn very fast. You learn hello, thank you, cat, dog. You feel like a genius because every day you know something you didn't know yesterday. But when you reach the intermediate level, progress slows down. You might study for a week and feel like you haven't learned anything new. This is the plateau. It is dangerous because this is where many people quit. They think the method isn't working anymore. But here is the truth. The plateau is where the real work happens. It is where your brain is consolidating information. It is like building a house. The foundation goes down fast. The frame goes up fast. But then, it looks like nothing is happening for a long time. That is because the workers are inside, doing the wiring, the plumbing, the drywalling. You can't see it from the outside, but the house is becoming functional. Your brain is doing the wiring. It is connecting all those vocabulary words and grammar rules you learned as a beginner. It is turning them into automatic reflexes. So, when you feel like you are not learning, don't panic. Just keep showing up. Keep watering the tree. Now, let's discuss the environment. Your environment influences your habits. If your guitar is locked in a case in the back of your closet, you will never play it. If your guitar is sitting on a stand in the middle of your living room, you will pick it up and play for 5 minutes just because it is there. We need to do the same for English. We need to design our environment to make English the easiest choice. How do we do this? Look at your phone. Change the language setting to English. It is a small change, but every time you look at your phone, you see English. Put English books or magazines on your coffee table, even if you don't read them every day. Just seeing them reminds your brain that English is part of your life. Stick Post-it notes on things in your house. Put a note on your mirror that says, "You are doing great." Put a note on the fridge that says, "What will you eat?" These visual cues act like small nudges. They gently push you towards the language without forcing you. Let's return to the story of Elena. One day, Elena had a very bad day. Her car broke down, her children were sick, and she was incredibly stressed. She did not write in her notebook that day. She did not listen to a song. In the past, Daniel would have beaten himself up. He would have said, "I failed. I broke the chain." But Elena had a different mindset. The next morning, she simply said, "Yesterday was hard. Today is a new day." She didn't try to do double the work. She just went back to her normal routine. She listened to a song while making breakfast. This resilience is key. Resilience means bouncing back. It means that when you fall off the horse, you get back on. Not immediately, maybe. Maybe you take a minute to dust yourself off. But you do get back on. Stress comes when we are rigid. When we say, "I must do this perfectly every day or else." Flexibility brings peace. Be like a bamboo tree. When the strong wind blows, the oak tree stands rigid and might break. The bamboo tree bends with the wind. It goes all the way down to the ground. But when the wind stops, the bamboo bounces back up. Be bamboo with your English learning. If life gets busy, bend. Do less. Maybe just listen to one song. But don't break. Don't quit. I want to talk a little bit about input versus output. At the B1 level, there is often a lot of pressure to speak. People say, "You must speak to learn." While speaking is important, forcing it too early causes high anxiety. Focus on input. Input is reading and listening. It is low stress. You can control the speed. You can rewind. You can look up words. Output is speaking and writing. It is high stress because it happens in real time. If you are feeling overwhelmed, stop worrying about output for a while. Go back to input. Fill your tank. When you have enough input, output will happen naturally. It will spill over. Think of your brain like a glass of water. Input is pouring water into the glass. Eventually, the water will reach the top and overflow. That overflow is speech. But if the glass is only half full, and you try to pour water out of it, you have to tip the glass over. You have to strain. It is difficult. Keep pouring water in. Listen to podcasts, watch movies, read simple books. Enjoy the stories. Let the language enter your mind without the pressure to push it back out immediately. Now, I want to address the comparison trap. In the age of social media, we see polyglots online who claim to learn a language in 3 months. We see people showing off their perfect accents. And we feel small. We feel slow. But remember, you are seeing their highlight reel. You are not seeing their struggles. You are not seeing the thousands of hours they spent practicing. And more importantly, their journey is not your journey. You have different life circumstances, different talents, different time constraints. Comparing your Chapter 5 to someone else's Chapter 20 is unfair to you. The only person you should compare yourself to is you from yesterday. Did you learn one new word today? Then you are winning. Did you understand a sentence today that you didn't understand last month? Then you are winning. Celebrate your own pace. Learn at your own pace is not just a nice phrase, it is a strategy for survival. If you try to run at someone else's pace, you will trip. Run your own race. We have talked a lot about mindset, but let's get practical about the materials you use. Using the wrong materials is a major cause of stress. If you are B1 level and you try to read a philosophy book written for native speakers, you will feel stupid. You are not stupid. You just chose the wrong tool. It is like trying to cut a steak with a spoon. You need comprehensible input. This means content that is just a little bit above your current level. You should understand about 70% to 80% of it. If you understand 100%, you are not learning. If you understand 50%, you will get frustrated. Finding that Goldilocks zone, not too hard, not too easy, but just right, is the key to stress-free learning. This podcast aims to be in that zone. I am speaking clearly, but I am using natural phrasing. I am not using slang, but I am not speaking like a robot. If you can understand me, you are in the right place. Stick with materials that make you feel smart, not materials that make you feel confused. If you start a book or a movie and it is too hard, stop. Put it away. There is no shame in saying, I am not ready for this yet. Find something easier. Protect your confidence. Your confidence is your engine. If you destroy your engine, the car won't move. This leads us to the concept of friction. Friction is a force that stops movement. If you try to slide a heavy box across a rough floor, there is a lot of friction. It is hard to push. If you put that same box on ice, it slides easily. There is less friction. When we try to build new habits, we often create too much friction for ourselves. We make the start too difficult. Imagine you want to study English in the morning. If your books are buried under a pile of papers, your headphones are tangled in your bag, and your notebook is in another room, you have created high friction. Before you can even learn one word, you have to solve 3 problems. Most of the time, your brain will look at that mess and say, "No, thank you. I will just check my phone instead." We need to grease the wheels. We need to lower the friction. This is called prepping the environment. Before you go to sleep tonight, I want you to prepare your learning space for tomorrow morning. It does not need to be a big desk. It could just be your kitchen table. Place your book there. Open it to the exact page you want to read. Put your pen right on top of the page. Untangle your headphones and lay them next to your phone. When you wake up and walk into the kitchen, the action of studying is already waiting for you. It is inviting you. You don't have to make a decision. You just have to sit down. By removing those tiny obstacles, you make the habit automatic. You save your mental energy for the actual learning, not the preparation. Now, I want to introduce you to a very powerful concept called the 2-minute rule. This rule is magic for procrastination. We often put off practicing English because the task feels too big. We think, I need to listen to a 30-minute podcast, or I need to read a whole chapter. That feels heavy. The 2-minute rule states that you should scale down your habit until it takes less than 2 minutes to do. So, instead of saying, I will read for 30 minutes, say, I will read 1 page. Instead of saying, I will study vocabulary, say, I will review 3 flashcards. Why does this work? Because anyone can do something for 2 minutes. It is impossible to say, I don't have time for a 2-minute task. But here is the secret. Once you start, you usually don't stop. The hardest part of any workout is putting on your shoes. The hardest part of writing is opening the laptop. Once you read that 1 page, you will likely read the next one, and the next one. But if you tell yourself, I must read 30 pages, you might never open the book at all. We want to master the art of showing up. A habit must be established before it can be improved. You cannot optimize a habit that does not exist. So, lower the bar. Make it so easy that you cannot fail. Let me tell you about another student of mine named Lucas. Lucas loved movies. He was a huge fan of science fiction and action films. He decided that watching movies would be his way of learning English. This was a great idea. But Lucas had a problem. He felt guilty about using subtitles. He heard somewhere that real learners don't use subtitles. So, he turned them off. He put on a complex movie about space travel. full of scientific words and fast talking. 10 minutes later, Lucas was lost. He didn't understand the plot. He didn't know who the bad guy was. He felt frustrated and stupid. He turned off the TV and didn't watch another movie in English for a month. Lucas made a classic mistake. He removed his support system before he was ready. Let me be very clear about this. Subtitles are your friends. They are a tool, not a cheat. However, there is a right way and a wrong way to use them. If you use subtitles in your native language, your brain will just read. It will ignore the English audio completely because reading your native language is the path of least resistance. But if you use English subtitles, you are doing something amazing. You are connecting the sound of the word to the shape of the word. You are reading and listening at the same time. This is multisensory learning. So, I told Lucas to turn the subtitles back on, but only in English, and I gave him permission to pause. If a movie is 2 hours long, maybe it takes you 3 hours to watch it. That is okay. If there is a scene with a lot of dialogue, watch it once with subtitles to understand the meaning. Then, rewind and watch it again with your eyes closed, just listening to the sounds. This transforms a passive activity into an active lesson. Lucas started doing this. He stopped worrying about being a real learner and started enjoying the stories again. And slowly, over many months, he found that he needed to look at the subtitles less and less. Eventually, he only glanced at them when the actors mumbled or used a rare word. He learned at his own pace, and he kept his passion for movies alive. This brings us to the difference between active listening and passive listening. To build a stress-free routine, you need a balance of both. Passive listening is what we talked about earlier. Listening while you wash dishes, drive, or clean the house. You are not 100% focused. You might miss a word here and there. That is perfectly fine. This is about immersion. It gets your ears used to the rhythm of the language. It is low energy and low stress. Active listening is different. This is when you sit down with a pen and paper. You give the audio your full attention. You might listen to a short clip, maybe just 3 minutes long. You listen to it 3 or 4 times. You write down new words. You try to summarize what you heard. This is high energy. It takes brain power. The mistake many students make is trying to do active listening for too long. They try to focus intensely for an hour, and they burn out. They get a headache. My advice for a stress-free life is to do a lot of passive listening and a tiny bit of active listening. Maybe you have passive audio playing for 1 hour throughout your day while you do other things, but you only do 10 or 15 minutes of active, focused study. This balance keeps you moving forward without exhausting you. It ensures that you are getting enough volume of English without draining your battery. Now, let's tackle a big monster: vocabulary. How many times have you tried to memorize a long list of words? You have a list of 20 words like benevolent, cacophony, and ephemeral. You repeat them over and over. You cover the definition and try to remember. Maybe you remember them for the test the next day. But 1 week later, they are gone, like smoke in the wind. This is because our brains are not designed to remember lists. Our brains are designed to remember connections, stories, and context. Imagine your brain is a spider web. If you throw a rock at a spider web, that is a random word without context. It might break through and fall to the ground. But if you gently place a leaf on the web, that is a word connected to a story or a feeling. It sticks. The web holds it. You need to learn words in context. Stop memorizing lists. Instead, learn sentences. If you find the word exhausted, don't just write exhausted equals very tired. Write a sentence that is true for you. Write, I am exhausted after playing football on Sundays. Now, the word is attached to a memory. It is attached to your life. I also want you to change your relationship with the dictionary. Many students read a book and stop at every single word they don't know. They pick up the dictionary 5 times on every page. This destroys the flow of reading. It makes reading a chore. It is boring and slow. I want you to try the 3-time rule. If you see a new word, skip it. Just keep reading. Try to guess the meaning from the sentence. If you see it a second time, acknowledge it. Say, ah, there is that word again. If you see it a third time, and you still don't understand it, and it seems important to the story, then, and only then, look it up. Most words in a book are not critical for understanding the main plot. If the author describes a character's coat as crimson instead of red, you don't need to stop and look up crimson to know the character is wearing a coat. By letting go of the need to understand 100% of the words, you free yourself to enjoy the 80% that you do understand. You build reading speed, and surprisingly, you learn more vocabulary this way because you are reading more pages. You are seeing words in their natural habitat, not pinned to a board in a museum. Let's shift gears and talk about the identity shift. This is a deep psychological change. When people ask you, "Do you speak English?" What do you say? Do you say, "No, I am just a student," or "I speak a little bit, but it is bad"? When you say these things, you are telling your brain that you are not a speaker. You are reinforcing a negative identity. You are keeping yourself in the learner box. I want you to step out of that box. Start telling yourself, I am an English speaker. You don't have to be a perfect speaker to be a speaker. If you can order a coffee, you are a speaker. If you can introduce yourself, you are a speaker. This shift in identity changes your behavior. A student studies for a test. A speaker uses the language to connect with people. When you view yourself as a speaker, you stop waiting for permission to speak. You stop waiting until you are ready. You realize that you are ready now. This connects to the spotlight effect. This is a psychological phenomenon where we think everyone is watching us closely. We think everyone notices our mistakes. We imagine that when we make a grammar error, the other person is thinking, "Wow, their present perfect tense is terrible." In reality, people are not thinking about you. They are thinking about themselves. They are worrying about their own problems, their own lunch, or what they are going to say next. If you are speaking to a native speaker, they are focused on the message, not the grammar. They just want to understand what you are trying to tell them. They are not grading you. They are not holding a red pen in their mind. Once you realize that nobody cares about your mistakes as much as you do, a huge weight lifts off your shoulders. You become free to experiment. You become free to sound silly. And ironically, when you stop worrying about mistakes, you make fewer of them because you are more relaxed. I want to talk about bad English days. This is something nobody warns you about. You will have days where your English feels amazing. Your words flow, your accent is good, and you understand everything. You feel like you have conquered the mountain. And then, 2 days later, you wake up and you can't even form a simple sentence. You stutter. You forget basic words like table or tomorrow. You feel like you have lost all your progress. You panic. You think, I am going backwards. I am losing my English. Please, listen to me closely. You are not losing your English. This is normal. This happens to everyone, even advanced speakers. Even native speakers have days where they can't find the right words. Language requires a lot of cognitive energy. If you are tired, stressed about work, hungry, or didn't sleep well, your brain will divert energy away from the language center to focus on survival. Your bad English day is just a sign that your brain is tired. It is not a sign of failure. When you have a bad day, don't fight it. Don't force yourself to study harder. That is like trying to run on a broken leg. Instead, be kind to yourself. Switch to easier activities. Maybe just listen to some music. Accept that today is a low-energy day, and trust that tomorrow or the next day, the high energy will return. Progress is not a straight line going up. It is a wavy line. It goes up and down, up and down. But if you zoom out, the general trend is up. Ride the waves. Don't drown in them. Now, let's look at how we can integrate English into your social life. Learning alone can be lonely. We are social creatures. We need connection. But finding a speaking partner can be scary. We are afraid of being judged. I recommend finding a language parent or a safe community. A language parent is someone. It could be a tutor, a friend, or an exchange partner who is willing to listen to you without correcting you constantly. They are interested in you, not just your language skills. When you look for a conversation partner, be honest about what you need. It is okay to say, I am feeling nervous about speaking. Can we just chat slowly? Please don't correct every mistake I make. I just want to practice fluency. A good partner will understand. They will create a safe space for you. If a partner makes you feel small or stupid, leave. Find a new one. Your learning environment must be supportive. You cannot grow a flower in toxic soil. There is also a wonderful technique called self-talk, or narration. You don't always need a partner to practice speaking. You can talk to the most patient person in the world, yourself. Narrate your day as you go through it. When you are making breakfast, say out loud, I am cracking the eggs. Now I am pouring the milk. Where is the salt? Ah, here it is. This might feel a little crazy at first. You might feel silly talking to an empty room, but this is one of the most effective fluency exercises you can do. It connects your thoughts directly to speech. It reveals the gaps in your vocabulary. You might realize, wait, I don't know the word for spatula. Then you can look it up. Because you are alone, there is zero pressure. No one can hear you make a mistake. You can repeat the same sentence 5 times until it feels comfortable. You can shout, whisper, or sing. It is your private laboratory. Let's go deeper into the concept of narrow listening. This is a strategy for building deep confidence. Usually, we jump from topic to topic. One day we listen to a podcast about travel, the next day about politics, the next day about cooking. This is good for variety, but it can be overwhelming because the vocabulary is always changing. Narrow listening means staying on one topic for a while. Let's say you are interested in gardening. Read 3 different articles about gardening. Watch 2 videos about gardening. Listen to a podcast about gardening. Because the topic is the same, the vocabulary will repeat. You will hear words like soil, seeds, fertilizer, and harvest over and over again in different contexts. This repetition helps the words stick naturally without memorization. You will start to feel like an expert in that one small area. This creates a pocket of confidence. You think, wow, I can understand almost everything about gardening. That feeling of competence is addictive. It motivates you to tackle the next topic. We also need to talk about the trap of translation. When we start learning, we translate everything in our heads. We hear "good morning." We think of the word in our native language, and then we understand the meaning. Then we think of our answer in our native language, translate it to English, and say it. This process is slow. It is exhausting. It is the reason why you feel tired after speaking for only 10 minutes. To break this habit, you need to connect English words directly to images and concepts, skipping your native language. When you see a table, don't think of the word table in your language. Look at the object and say table. Visualize the object. When you learn a new word like apple, don't write apple equals your language word. Draw a small picture of an apple next to the word, or close your eyes and imagine biting into a crunchy red apple. Connect the English word to the sensation, the taste, the image. This takes time. It doesn't happen overnight, but you can practice it. Look around your room right now. Name 5 objects in English, fast. Lamp, chair, window, pen, floor. Don't let your brain have time to translate. Force the direct connection. The goal is to have English exist in your brain as its own entity, not as a parasite living on top of your native language. Let's discuss the role of curiosity. Children learn fast because they are curious. They ask why constantly. They want to know the names of things. As adults, we often lose this. We become passive. We wait for the teacher to feed us information. I want you to wake up your inner curiosity. Be a detective. When you are walking down the street, look at signs. Look at advertisements. If you see a billboard in English, try to understand the slogan. Why did they choose those words? If you listen to a song, ask yourself, what does that line mean? Don't just let the language wash over you. Reach out and grab it. Be active. If you are watching a movie and a character uses a cool phrase, pause it. Write it down. Say it out loud. Try to use it the next day. This active engagement turns the world into your classroom. You don't need a textbook when you have the whole world. I want to touch on the importance of rest. In our modern culture, we glorify being busy. We think that if we are not working, we are lazy. But in learning, rest is when the magic happens. When you sleep, your brain is organizing memories. It is clearing out the junk and strengthening the important connections. If you deprive yourself of sleep, you are depriving your brain of the time it needs to file away the English you learned today. So, prioritize your sleep and take breaks. If you have been studying for 20 minutes and you feel your focus slipping, stop. Stand up, stretch, drink a glass of water. Look out the window. Give your brain a reset. Pushing through brain fog is counterproductive. You will just make mistakes and get frustrated. A refreshed brain learns 10 times faster than a tired brain. Learn at your own pace means respecting your body's need for recovery. Now, think about your English personality. Some people feel that they change when they speak a different language. Maybe in your native language, you are loud and funny, but in English, you feel shy and serious because you have fewer words. This can feel like a loss of identity. It feels uncomfortable. But you can also view it as an opportunity. You get to build a new version of yourself. Maybe your English self is more polite. Maybe your English self is more direct. Embrace this new persona. It is like putting on a costume. When you speak English, you are an actor on a stage. This can actually help reduce anxiety. If you make a mistake, it's not you making the mistake. It's your English character. It creates a little bit of psychological distance that can make you feel safer. Let's revisit the concept of goals. We talked about not obsessing over fluency, but we do need direction. However, instead of result-based goals, like I want to pass the B2 exam, set habit-based goals. A result-based goal is out of your control. You might study hard and still fail the exam. That leads to disappointment. A habit-based goal is 100% within your control. A good goal is, I will listen to English for 15 minutes every day for 30 days. You can succeed at this. It doesn't matter how much you learn. It only matters that you did it. When you tick that box every day, you get a hit of dopamine. You feel successful. You build a streak. And inevitably, if you keep the habit, the result will come. The exam will be passed. The fluency will arrive. But the focus remains on the daily action. I want to ask you, what is your why? Why are you learning English? Is it for a job? Is it to travel? Is it to understand movies? Is it to talk to a family member? If your why is weak, your discipline will be weak. If you are learning just because it's good to know, you will quit when it gets hard. You need a burning reason. If you are learning for a job, visualize yourself in that office. Visualize yourself leading a meeting in English. Feel the pride. If you are learning for travel, visualize yourself ordering dinner in Paris or asking for directions in New York. Visualize the freedom. Make your why emotional. Connect it to your dreams and your desires. When you feel lazy, when you don't want to do your 2 minutes, call upon that vision. Let it pull you forward. Let's talk about the plateau again, but from a different angle. Sometimes, to break a plateau, you need a challenge. Not a stressful challenge, but a fun one. If you have been doing the same thing for months, your brain might be bored. It is on autopilot. Shake things up. If you always listen to podcasts, try reading a comic book. If you always read news, try translating a song. If you never speak, try recording a 1-minute video of yourself. Novelty wakes up the brain. It says, hey, pay attention. This is new. Just like your muscles get used to a workout and stop growing if you don't change the exercises, your brain gets used to a study routine. Change the input. Change the medium. Change the time of day. Keep it fresh. Keep it exciting. As we look toward the future, I want to address a common myth. People say, Alex, I can't become fluent because I don't live in an English-speaking country. I don't live in London or New York or Sydney. They believe that geography is destiny. They think that there is something magical in the air in England that makes you learn faster. But I want to tell you a secret. I have met people who have lived in the United States for 20 years and still cannot speak English well. They live in a bubble of their native language. They watch TV in their native language. They have friends who speak their native language, and they work in places where they don't need English. Being in the country is not enough. On the other hand, I have met students in Brazil, in Japan, in Vietnam, and in Russia who have never left their hometowns, yet they speak with incredible fluency. They understand slang. They get the jokes. How is this possible? It is because they built their own English world right inside their bedroom. We live in the age of the Internet. The Internet is your plane ticket. You can create an immersion environment anywhere. You have access to the same newspapers, the same podcasts, the same movies, and the same YouTube channels as someone living in Los Angeles. So, how do we build this digital immersion? It starts with curating your feed. Think about your social media: Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, or Facebook. You probably scroll through these apps for maybe 30 minutes or an hour every day. If 100% of that content is in your native language, that is wasted time. I want you to go through your accounts and follow 50 English speakers. But here is the trick. Do not just follow English teachers. Teachers are great, but they speak teacher English. They speak slowly and carefully. You need real English. Follow people who share your hobbies. If you love photography, follow a photographer from Canada. If you love baking, follow a baker from Ireland. If you love fitness, follow a trainer from Australia. When you open your phone, your feed will be a mix of your native language and English. You will stop seeing English as a subject to study and start seeing it as a way to get information about things you love. You will see a picture of a beautiful cake and read the caption to find the recipe. You are not studying English. You are learning how to bake a cake. The English is just the tool. This shift is profound. It turns dead time into learning time, without you even noticing. Let's talk about the transition from learning to read to reading to learn. At the A1 and A2 levels, and even the early B1 level, you are learning to read. You are struggling with the letters and the words. But at some point, you cross a bridge. You start reading to learn. This is where the magic happens. You pick up a biography of a famous person you admire, written in simple English. You get lost in the story of their life. You forget that it is in English because you are so interested in the content. This is where you should aim to be. Find books that are page-turners. These are books that are so exciting you can't stop reading. Usually, thrillers, mysteries, or romance novels are great for this. They have strong plots. They make you ask, what happens next? When you are desperate to know who the killer is, or if the couple will kiss, your brain works overtime to understand. You absorb vocabulary faster because the emotional engagement is high. Do not try to read Shakespeare or old classics yet. The language is old and difficult. Read modern stories that grab your heart. I want to revisit the concept of thinking in English. We touched on this with the naming objects exercise, but let's go deeper. The next level of thinking in English is describing your feelings and your plans. This is the internal monologue. We all have a voice in our heads that narrates our lives. I am hungry. I am tired. That person is annoying. I hope it doesn't rain. Usually, this voice speaks your native language. I want you to try to switch this voice to English for just 5 minutes a day. When you are walking to the bus stop, try to narrate your sensory experience. The wind is cold on my face. The sky is very gray. I can smell rain. That car is driving too fast. This connects the language to your physical reality. Then, try to narrate your emotions. I feel a little bit anxious about the meeting today. My stomach hurts a little. I need to take a deep breath. When you can express your internal world in English, the language becomes a part of your soul. not just a skill in your brain. It creates an emotional bond. Many bilingual people say that they feel like they have two different personalities. Maybe in English, you are more direct because the language is more direct. Maybe in your native language, you are more poetic. This is a beautiful thing. It expands your range of human expression. Do not be afraid of this change. Embrace it. Discover who you are in English. Now, let's address the intermediate plateau again, but specifically regarding boredom. The B1 level is long. It can take years to move from B1 to B2. During this time, the excitement of being a beginner fades. You don't get that rush of learning 10 new words a day. It feels like work. This is where discipline beats motivation. Motivation is a feeling. It comes and goes, like the weather. Some days you feel sunny and motivated. Some days you feel rainy and lazy. You cannot rely on motivation. You must rely on habit and discipline. Discipline is doing the thing even when you don't want to do it. But remember, we want to do it without stress. So, the discipline shouldn't be, I must suffer for an hour. The discipline should be, I must do my 2 minutes. Even on the days when you are bored, just do the 2 minutes. Keep the chain unbroken. The compound effect is the eighth wonder of the world. Let me explain the compound effect with a math example. If you improve your English by just 1% every day, just 1%, by the end of 1 year, you will be 37 times better. Not 2 times better. 37 times better. That is the power of small, consistent improvements. But if you do nothing for 3 days, you slide back. So, trust the math. Trust that the small, boring days are adding up to a massive result. I want to tell you a story about connection. I had a student named Marco. Marco was an older gentleman, about 60 years old. He wanted to learn English because his daughter had moved to Canada and married a Canadian man. They had a baby, Marco's grandson, who only spoke English. Marco was heartbroken. He could not talk to his own grandson. He could only smile and wave on video calls. This was his why. It was a powerful, burning why. Marco struggled. He was not good at languages in school. He forgot words constantly, but he didn't quit. He used the techniques we talked about. He listened to children's songs. He labeled his house. He mumbled to himself. One day, his daughter came to visit with the grandson. The little boy was playing with a toy car. Marco sat down on the floor. He picked up another car. He looked at the boy and said, "Look, the red car is fast. Vroom, vroom." The little boy looked at him, eyes wide, and smiled. He said, "Yes, Grandpa, fast car." Marco told me that in that moment, he didn't care about grammar. He didn't care about irregular verbs. He connected. He had a relationship with his grandson. That is what this is all about. We are not learning English to pass a test. We are not learning English to impress strangers. We are learning English to connect with other human beings, to share stories, to understand different perspectives, to love and to be loved. Never lose sight of that human element. When you feel stressed about a grammar rule, ask yourself, does this prevent me from connecting? If you say, she go to the store, instead of she goes to the store, will the other person understand you? Yes, they will. Connection is achieved. Perfection is not required for connection. In fact, sometimes our mistakes make us more endearing. They show that we are trying. They show vulnerability. And vulnerability builds trust. Let's talk about cultural literacy. As you get better at listening, you will start to notice that language is not just words. It is culture. The way people apologize, the way they joke, the way they complain. This is all cultural. In English-speaking cultures, for example, please and thank you are used constantly, much more than in some other cultures. If you translate directly from your language, you might sound rude, even if your grammar is perfect. So, as you listen to podcasts and watch movies, pay attention to the social dance. How do people end a conversation? How do they interrupt each other politely? This is the soft skill of fluency. It is what makes you feel natural. You will learn that in English, we often use softeners. We don't say, "Give me the salt." We say, "Could you possibly pass the salt?" Or, "I would love some salt if you don't mind." Listening for these cultural cues is a fun detective game. It takes the pressure off vocabulary and puts the focus on behavior. Now, I want to give you a strategy for when you feel completely overwhelmed. Sometimes life happens. You get sick, you move house, you change jobs. English feels like a heavy backpack you are carrying. In those moments, it is okay to put the backpack down. It is okay to take a maintenance break. A maintenance break means you stop trying to learn new things. You stop the vocabulary lists. You stop the grammar exercises. You just switch to pure enjoyment mode to keep what you have. During a maintenance break, you only do things that are fun. Watch your favorite sitcom reruns in English. Listen to music. That's it. Your goal is just to keep the language in your ears so you don't forget. You can stay in this maintenance mode for weeks or even months. When life calms down and you feel that energy return, you can pick up the backpack again and start climbing. The key is to not see the break as quitting. It is just a rest stop on the highway. Let's discuss the comparison to native speakers. This is the ultimate source of stress. We look at a native speaker and think, "I will never be like them." Well, you are right. You will never be a native speaker. You are something else. You are a bilingual or multilingual speaker. And that is arguably cooler. A native speaker didn't work for their English. They just absorbed it as a baby. You earned yours. You fought for every word. You built your fluency with sweat and dedication. Your English will always have a flavor of your native language. You might always have an accent. Embrace that accent. Your accent is your history. It tells people where you are from. It says, "I speak another language." It adds character to your voice. Unless you are a spy, you don't need to sound exactly like a native. You just need to be clear. Clear is better than native. Clear is better than perfect. As we near the end of our time together, I want to give you a metaphor to carry with you. Think of your English knowledge as a giant mosaic. A mosaic is a picture made of thousands of tiny little colored tiles. When you start, you only have a few tiles. You can't see the picture yet. It looks like a mess. You might feel discouraged because it doesn't look like anything. Every time you learn a word, you place a tile. Every time you understand a song, you place a tile. Every time you have a conversation, you place a handful of tiles. For a long time, you are just placing tiles, trusting that they will form a picture. But one day, you step back. You look at what you have built. And suddenly, you see it. You see the landscape. You see the beautiful, complex image of your fluency. You realize that every single moment of study, every mistake, every flashcard was a necessary tile in that masterpiece. You couldn't skip any of them. So, keep placing your tiles, one by one, day by day. Some days you place a blue tile. Some days, a red one. It doesn't matter. Just keep building. You are building a monument to your own potential. I want to leave you with a challenge for the next 7 days. It is the No Stress Challenge. For the next week, I want you to banish the words should, must, and have to from your English vocabulary. No more, I should study. No more, I must learn this. Replace them with get to or want to. Say, I get to listen to this podcast. I want to watch this video. If you find yourself feeling stressed, stop immediately. Close the book. Turn off the audio. Walk away. Come back only when you can do it with a smile. If you do this for 7 days, you will reset your brain's relationship with English. You will stop associating it with pain and start associating it with pleasure. And pleasure is the fuel that will carry you to fluency. Thank you. Thank you for listening to me. Thank you for trusting me with your time. Thank you for being part of this community. You are not alone in this. There are millions of people just like you all around the world, wearing headphones, washing dishes, and mumbling to themselves in English. You are part of a global family of learners. If this series has helped you, if it has lowered your shoulders and calmed your mind, please let me know. Leave a comment sharing your story. Tell me about your why. Tell me about your 2-minute habit. I read every single one, and they inspire me to keep creating. Subscribe to English in Fluency so we can keep walking this path together. We have so much more to talk about. We have so many more stories to share. Remember, the goal is not to be perfect. The goal is not to be fast. The goal is to be you in English. Take one last deep breath in, hold it, and let it out. You are ready. You are capable. And you are doing great. I am Alex, and I will see you in the next episode. Keep listening, keep smiling, and keep learning at your own pace. Goodbye for now.